So I'd like to offer tonight some comments on dreaming within the dream of this life. The current situation in the country is a cautionary tale about the dangers of not knowing who we are and of not being awake to the nature of our mind. As we dream within the dream of this life. So I'd like to talk about the dreamlike nature of the mind and how we experience this life. Can everybody hear me? Yeah? Okay. In an ordinary sense, how different people are. We live so differently in different worlds of self. Our internal experience of how the world is unique in each of us. According to the specific conditions we've grown up with and emerged within, our thoughts and beliefs, sensations and habits of mind and experience in this life, and the narratives that have been woven from all this, individually and collectively. We all grew up in one nation, but many different collectives, and those collective narratives influence how we make sense of the world. We can watch how states of mind and body call forth the world, create a world. Looking at the armed camp that our nation is right now. In what ways is this real? And in what ways is this a dream within a dream? It is, some say it's kind of like a nightmare, but it definitely is dreamlike in its oddness and its power. And its seeming reality. We experience different dreams within the dream of this life. And still each of us has the potential to open our Dharma eye and see the truth of the nature of mind that governs our dream experience, that decides our narrative. Nested in our ordinary beliefs and habitual narratives, we fight over whose narrative is right and whose narrative is delusion. Only one can operate in the space at the same time. Though we occupy the same space at the same time, we fight over what is. At the Capitol last Wednesday, we saw this truth with our own eyes, and the actions called forth from that scene is further deepening the trance of the dream with many potential consequences, which will create further delusion and harm. What can a nation armed against itself lead to? We Zenis tend to be naive and want to get out of the relative into an idealized absolute. But this is not a circumstance where that works. Living in the ordinary view where there's only one universe, we see a clash of the universe. And now the capitals of the country are armed camps. This is indeed expressing the contents of our collective dream, our collective mind. And we can look at this from a spiritual direction. By spiritual, meaning a wide open view, going beyond the narrative of the dream to the process of the dream within the dream. Always going beyond. So there's a koan. All things return to the one. What does the one return to? When we try to understand in the usual way, we're trying to get to one narrative. We're trying to get to the one. And we fight over this. Which one? Which one is it? But when we have an inkling of what we call essential nature, we know that there is no one. No one. The truth is more than thoughts and feelings. So do not believe and get caught by them. See the whole process arising and ceasing. This is Ajahn Chah. The truth is more than thought and feelings. So do not believe and get caught by them. See the whole process arising and ceasing. So he's pointing to the truth is processual. We don't get perched in one spot, one narrative. So here he's describing an approach to the dream arising within the dream of this life, suggesting that there is no awakening from the dream. There is awakening within the dream. This is a really, really important small turn to become aware of, to awaken to. Within the whole process of arising and ceasing, always going beyond, coming from awareness and responding from awareness, which doesn't attach to a narrative, but is cracked wide open into the compassion of the actual moment, the particular condition. Ajahn Chah says, do not fear things that arise in the mind. Know them, question them. The truth is more than thought and feelings. So do not believe and get caught by them. See the whole process arising and ceasing. This understanding gives rise to wisdom. Wisdom in the Buddha way is defined as what is actual. So in dreams, everything is original. Nothing has to conform to the same old. It can go anywhere. It can be anything. Going beyond one phenomenon after another in any kind of mishmash of ways. Ordinary objects can take on significance. Moving a hairbrush can take on an aura of sublime meaning in a dream. Time doesn't exist, nor does distance in the usual ways, or maybe not at all in dreaming. We have a knowing that I'm trying to get somewhere in a dream, some kind of knowing. There are sudden appearances that shift the scene entirely. In dreams, we can be soaked in mood, longing, sorrow, fear, completely absorbed in the dream. We don't realize that we're dreaming. It's just what is. And when we wake up in the morning, that world is instantly gone. Though the mood of it may linger for hours into the day and in an interesting way color what is arising. I mention this because Zen awakening has some similarities to waking up in the morning. Some. You open your eyes in the morning and everything changes. You may wake up with a new insight in how to approach an old situation, or realize in the morning that you can handle a difficulty that seemed impossible at night. You can find it humorous, something that seems so serious. This is ordinarily the way we think about dreaming and waking. Waking is the opposite of dreaming. Waking is the end of sleep and the beginning of awake. That's the ordinary way of thinking about it. But in expounding a dream within the dream, which is Dogen Zenji's phrase, dreaming, there is no beginning and no end. In this life, there is no beginning and no end, experientially. And looking closely, is there really a beginning and an end to be found anywhere? When we look closely, it's a conceit, it's an idea, it's a habitual way of referring. But find the beginning and find the end of anything. So when the Dharma eye opens, everything changes and nothing changes. The Zen view is radical. The Zen view of awakening is radical and not essentially just like waking up in the morning. Awakening isn't awakening from the dream. Rather, we can say with Dogen, we awaken in the dream, dreaming within the dream of awakening. And the only way to kind of penetrate the meaning of this is directly in our own experience. So we can hear these words for years and not quite get the reference. But it's important to work with it. So let's consider that Zen practice starts with a radical act. Just sitting in utter stillness of mind and body. That's really radical compared to what we usually do, which is moving all the time. Moving mind and body, thoughts and speech, and physical activity. Open to the moment, open in awareness is what we do. We sit in utter stillness, but open entirely to utter stillness and everything that comes forward in that field. And in Zazen, we are completely willing to experience the productions of the mind and the sensorium without any need to act on the experience. I mean, that's what we're prompted to do. It doesn't always work that way. It's not always possible to get still, but there are moments. Without any need to act on experience, the continual flow is all. The mind of all is the mind in Zazen, the mind of all. And just because we're familiar with the things of the day, we claim that a greater reality to them than to the things of the night. But as we begin to appreciate the meaning of the dream, the same mind that secretes nighttime dreams secretes daytime mind. During the day, ordinary mind ordinarily tones down sensitivity to what is unfolding because we're distracted. Our attention is more widely distributed and scattered often, not being fully absorbed in it, so that we miss the curiosities of the waking dream. In sleep, we are thoroughly absorbed in the dream. We are absorbed, not distracted. There is a deeply permeating focus in dreaming. Each of us experiences an inkling of this. Even while we're still lost in the waking dream of this life, when we get a taste of this in Zazen, this kind of deep absorption, we taste the freedom and the relief that waking within the dream brings. And this in itself keeps bringing us back to the cushion, even an inkling almost outside of awareness. What does bring us back to this cushion? This very, very challenging practice. We all have the capacity to recognize the dream nature of our life. We practice not so much to leave it behind or rise above it, but to completely revel in the extraordinary view that leaves nothing out of our life. And this is a radical departure from the ordinary view of waking up. In dreams, everything is original. The car disappears and you're left in a strange town. You don't know where you are. You have no idea about it. You have no idea at all. Perhaps there are no streets, or people don't eat, and everyone knows everybody. Or the house reveals rooms you never knew were there. The house where you've lived for years. Where'd these rooms come from? I never saw them before. I didn't know they were here. During sleep, nothing challenges the reality of the dream. Nothing challenges the reality of the one view. Even if that view is constantly shifting, as often they do in dreams. And until you become lucid within the dream, and lucidity brings awareness. Oh, this is a dream. Oh, this is a dream. So awakening within the dream. Most people have had that experience of realizing in the dream that you are in a dream. In our usual so-called waking life, nothing challenges the reality of our view or throws it into doubt until we become lucid and emerge within the dream of this life. Something unexpected happens, some awakening, somebody dies, or we get a diagnosis, or there's a riot in the capital. And everything is alert. All attention is alert. And everything is thrown into doubt. Opening the Dharma eye to a larger view of continual change and interdependence that we usually forget about comes back to mind at a situation like we're in now. We lose our comfortable perch of past and future and continuity and familiarity and knowability. And it kind of is revealed as the dream that it always actually is and has been. There are so many of our fellow human beings who are caught up in a very, very different dream. And this is one reason why the recent events in our country have been so disconcerting. We're called to defend the assertion of our dream, to assert the truth of our dream, my dream. This is my dream. This is the real dream. This is the real truth. We confuse objectivity with subjectivity. We confuse subjectivity with objectivity. We're all lost in different dreams. There isn't just one dream. 331 million people, 331 million dreams. That's the situation we're in. That's one way of looking at it, huh? So our practice reminds us of the dream that is our life, the dreamlike nature. But we need not to misunderstand the meaning of awakening, because Zen practice also emerges in the dream. We may believe that with Zen awakening, there's a life outside of the dream, other than the dream. But this is another view, another dream. The relative world of the dream continues with awakening. We're told this in many different ways from the teachings. Awakening may just be experienced as a continual practice of transcendent patience. We can think if we wake up from the dream, it'll be a completely different world. But actually, waking up from the dream, seems to me, is waking up to the practice of transcendent patience. Present, continual presence, as when we are absorbed in the dream, because we are absorbed in a dream. What self awakens? It says, the chant says, seeing forms with the whole body and mind, hearing sounds with the whole body and mind, one experiences intimately. A bird winging through the sky, or answering the doorbell when it rings. So what's special about realization? Realizing the ordinary, the remarkable ordinary. We don't exchange one dream for another, but awaken to the dreaming within the dream, awakening to the vast sky of unfettered mind. We awaken to mind, the nature of mind, and hear the voice of the wind occurring within the dream. So there's a poem, a bird winging through the sky, appearance brilliantly illuminated, impermanent materiality within the field of the senses. So in the dream, the car disappeared, and I realized I was never going to get back to where I was before. This is part of our collective dream right now. When are we going to get back to normal? Well, this dream leaves its mark on how we experience everything that comes after as the dream continues. This is not a usual kind of Dharma talk, but just a contemplation of the nature of our mind. We want to believe in a reality, which is fine. But what do we think it is? That's always the question that we all work with in our practice. What do we think this reality is? So thank you for listening. And I'm very interested to hear your thoughts about all this.